Meeting to order at 4:04. And I'm just going to read the land acknowledgement statement for the town of Smiths Falls. On November the 10th, 2021, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. Thank you. So we have an agenda in front of us. Can I get someone to approve the agenda, please? Chris, thank you. And Julia seconded. All in favor? Thank you. Anything to add to the agenda? Mary?
Yeah, so if we could, after priority issues, add project updates. I have a project update for 44 Chambers discussed last week.
Mary, is that project update going to affect our budget?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay. I'd also like to switch the two reports. So to start with 45 Beckwith Street North and do 7 Maple Avenue Second, if we could flip those two around, please. Okay, any other comments on the agenda? Nope. Okay, thank you. Adoption of the minutes. Can I have someone move to adopt the minutes?
Sorry, Herb, there are no minutes this month.
Oh, I see that. Okay. My paperwork has failed me. Okay, we'll skip that one. Disclosure of monetary interest. Any monetary interest this afternoon? Nope. Okay, thank you. Priority issues. So let's get to report number 2021-13, 45 Beckwith Street North. Mary, if I could get you to just go through that for us a bit.
Sure. So this is an application under Program 1 for the production and installation of a new retractable awning for the property municipally known as 45 Beckwith Street North, which also houses a longstanding business, Marianne Style, in our downtown. So the awning proposed is consistent with the render developed for the property through the Downtown Revitalization Render Project. No additional improvements consistent with this render are proposed. Awning is proposed to be constructed of black woven acrylic with white lettering and mounted upon a black structure. The applicant has provided 3 quotations for the production and installation of this awning, demonstrating a maximum value of $4,300 before taxes. In accordance with policy, the applicant has demonstrated the eligibility to receive funding up to $2,150. So staff have provided the evaluation matrix developed by the committee for the purpose of evaluating Program 1. And we're encouraging the committee to complete this as a group following their discussion as per recent committee direction. I've also developed a draft motion that can be modified by the committee at their choosing.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Any discussion on this project? Chris?
I think that's a no-brainer. This whole request is a no-brainer. The Wacom family has run this business for as long as I can ever remember. They're good pillars of the community. I have no issue with that, with this request whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Julia, you're nodding your head. Would you like to jump in there?
Yeah, I'm just, like Chris said, I'm in support of this application.
Okay, Dorothy, any comments?
Nothing additional. I'm in support of it too. It seems like a really good, appropriate application, and we have a little bit of money left. So,
okay, perfect. So Mary has written out a motion, a draft motion here. if we support the application, maybe I could get someone to approve the motion as suggested. Chris, moving the motion forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. A seconder on the motion. Dorothy, all in favor of the motion? Okay, thank you. Approved for $2,150. Thank you very much. Okay, Mary, would you like to jump in on 7 Maple Avenue, please?
Just a quick question first, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Would the committee, I understood it was a no-brainer, it seemed essentially, but would the committee like to complete the evaluation matrix for the purpose of the council report?
Do we have to?
I guess you don't. There's nowhere in policy that says you must. I
Do we
just know that.
discretion? We have
Sorry?
discretion, 4,000, don't we?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for bringing that up. You absolutely do.
Okay, so let's note that it has been approved and that we have the authority to move that forward.
Okay, just a minute
Chris?
here. I just wanted to make that note. So would you like me to speak to 7 Maple now?
Yes, please.
Perfect. So this is actually a first application under Program 5. It's in support of a new mixed-use development for the property municipally known as 7 Maple. The property previously consisted of a medical office building, which has recently been demolished or mostly demolished. The application seeks funding to support a Phase 2 environmental site assessment needed to accommodate future development of the property. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 4-story mixed-use building featuring 2 commercial units on the ground floor and 33 residential units on the upper floor. The construction is also proposed to provide all the off-street parking required to comply with the town zoning bylaw. So just a little recap of what Program 5 is. So in accordance with Schedule A of the CIP, eligible properties consist of properties known to be contaminated or are perceived as being contaminated, which have a Phase 1 ESA demonstrating a requirement for Phase 2. Those eligible properties are eligible up to $15,000 or 50%, whichever is less. And only a maximum of 1 study is permitted per property for funding. So it is noted within the Phase 1 ESA that was previously conducted for the property by Pinchin Limited. I'm sorry, I've got that incorrect. Earlier in 2021, based on the results of the Phase 1 ESA investigation, multiple on-site and adjacent potentially contaminated activities were identified, such as former auto repair buildings, a former paint shop on site, and underground storage tanks adjacent the property. Accordingly, a Phase 2 ESA was recommended to further investigate the soil and groundwater quality on site. So the applicant has only provided a single quotation for this. The investigation portion, as well as the development of the Phase 2 ESA, is demonstrated a maximum $40,097.40. The CIP is advised that the CIP application and policy does not explicitly state the number of quotations needed to support a funding request under Program 5. So we did not receive multiple quotations for this one because there was no indication to the applicant how many were needed. So in conclusion, they are eligible for funding. You are aware that there is insufficient funds available to fulfill the whole request. So I guess ultimately it would be up to the committee whether or not we should accept only 1 quotation and how much money would we like to give them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mary. So let's look at the questions that you've asked one at a time and see if we can work through that. Is the proposed development supported by town policies, including the community improvement plan, the official plan, and the strategic plan? They're looking to build a commercial and residential structure in our downtown, close to our downtown. Any comments on that one? Chris?
Are any of these units affordable? Have they been identified as affordable?
Mary, any idea?
No, they have not been identified as affordable. There was no, so there wasn't a density or height request provision through the zoning bylaw, which is really our only trigger to ask for those community bonusing items.
Chris?
$40,900 is a ridiculous number for a phase two. We just did one of 44 chambers and it was $7,900. I think somebody is, if we have to ask for at least 2 more quotes, or we throw the whole thing out one way or the other. It's ridiculous. The 40,900 is, unless it's a 20-acre site, and I don't know how it could be because it's probably smaller than the 44 chamber site. So it's to say it's 40,900 is not even a realistic quote.
Okay, Julia?
I'm just wondering if the applicant gave any indication why the other quotes weren't obtained or couldn't have been obtained. I know oftentimes it's challenging to get quotes.
Not environmentally, it's not.
Mary?
Sorry, 2 things I'd like to know. One, to Julia's comments. Again, there was no indication in policy nor on the application what the requirements for program 5 are. I imagine that that's because this application predates my arrival with the town, and I actually can't speak to why it's not on there, but there is absolutely no indication on our CIP application what is needed to support these forms of requests. I also dug through policy. There's nothing there either, which we've discussed in the past about how many quotations. The only thing we can rely on would be the town's procurement policy, which does state that amounts up to $20,000, between $2,000 and $20,000, that we should be receiving 3 quotations for and ensuring that we get best value. So that would be the only policy to my knowledge that we can rely on. The second thing I wanted to note was to Chris Samir here about the cost being high. That 40,000 could be my problem. Carl and I did discuss. This includes the supplementary investigation. So all the work that needs to be conducted to obtain the soil samples, send them to the lab and whatnot. So I'm not sure if, when you speak to the difference in cost, if you were including that. So I just wanted to give you that information.
I'm comparing apples to apples. And McIntosh Perry was the people that did it. Wasn't just a guy out of the back of his truck. It was a professional engineering consultant that did the work for us.
Okay, Julia, sorry.
So I guess, Chris, with your comment, if say your development or the development on Chamber Street was only say $7,000, that could significantly impact the amount that this application would be if you were to get quotes that were much lower.
Correct. I would support $3,950 is what I'd support right now based on a similar quote, but that's about all I would support.
Okay, Chris McGuire, is that your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having video trouble today. I
think
also,
you're at home still in your pajamas. I think that's what
yeah, I can put it on my phone, but you're just going to see the ceiling. Anyway, I thought the price was kind of high. If there was more information that they could give us that would explain, you know, is a certain type of designated substance that's might be there, or a certain kind of, like, there's got to be if there's no reason why the investigation is going to cost $35,000, I'm a little bit concerned about not having more quotes, because it's definitely at the high end of that ballpark, and even if it came down to $30,000, the full ask is still on the high end. So I don't know, do we have any other information?
Well, let's remember that we only have just over $5,800 left in our budget. So that's the most that we can really approve for this year. Or we can send it back to them and ask them for 2 more quotes.
44 Chambers being a fully not-for-profit building, never asked for the environmental. I find that somewhat, they actually, Carebridge probably didn't realize they were supposed to. So that's simply too bad, actually.
Mary?
Just wanted to speak to the fact that an ESA was not required for that site, Chris. There was no trigger for it because it was residential, replacing residential.
No, it's required. It was
It
required
was
by,
required,
yeah.
but it
was
wasn't required by the town though, eh?
No, but the phase one suggested that there was where the car wash is that Castle owns, right beside Kentucky Fried, the old KFC, there was fuel tanks there. So it triggered an ESA.
So fair enough, you're absolutely correct. I imagine that requirement came from the province then.
Okay, from what I'm hearing, I think people are concerned about the price that's been quoted. And I'm going to throw something out there, and that's just to go back to them. And I think we should get 2 more quotes for this and see what that does. Are we in agreement with that, or am I out in left field here?
Do we know if the quote included the designated substances? Do we know, like inside the building, or do we know where that came from? Sorry, Mary, I was talking Greek.
Yeah, no, I think I was just more confused by the question. So the only thing I understand that, are you talking about what was conducted inside the building?
Correct.
Right, so it sounds like the only thing that was on site was an auto repair and former paint shop. And then underground storage tanks were found on adjacent properties. That was my understanding of the overview I was provided.
So
Okay,
Mary, you said this quote could include additional information that they're looking to conduct as part of the investigation. So that could justify why it's higher. Like, do we have a copy of the quote that we could see to kind of compare it?
So I have a copy of the quote attached, but there was an information pamphlet that was submitted that gave overview on the fact that the phase one needed to be updated, which is not included in this price. That was $4,890. Then there was task 2A, which is a supplementary investigation portion. So that portion is the amount of $35,000 that Chris was concerned about. So that amount there is for all of the testing, sending off to the lab and whatnot that they're suggesting will need to be done. And then the actual task of updating and providing a phase 2 ESA is only that $5,100 before taxes.
So is that what he's looking to cover, is the $5,100 for
So-
phase 2?
The application didn't indicate. Carl and I discussed it and the policy was vague. So our understanding of the information pamphlet was the supplementary investigation information was necessary to complete the phase 2. So we had thought of them both as eligible costs.
Okay, I think we need to go back to the applicant and get more information on this. What parts is he including for sure? And what, if it's just phase 2, what does that include? If it includes phase 1 supplementary investigation, what does that include? I don't think we've got enough information today to make a full decision on this right now.
So is this the only application we received? They didn't even ask for the tax abatement, which is the lion's
So
share?
actually that's part, I was gonna add that to the roundtable. The tax abatement's not quite finished, but they have asked for that to be on the December agenda.
How can you tear the building down without asking for that first?
Because it's only for the redevelopment, so he's not, you can tear down the building before you start constructing. We have no site alteration bylaw, so he's absolutely permitted to tear down that building as long as he obtains all of the approvals prior to beginning construction.
Okay, any other, Julia?
I'm just thinking because he's looking to come back in December, and it seems like you said, Irv, and you have concerns, Chris, maybe we just go back to the applicant and ask him for that more information, and then we review it on the December application along with the TIG.
I'm confused why why you'd want to update the phase one if you're going to carry out a phase two. It defies common sense. It defies common sense completely. Why would you bother updating the phase one if you're going to spend money on the phase two?
Mary?
I'm going to provide the additional information to you, Chris, because the additional information addresses that.
Oh, good.
Okay, maybe we need the additional information, all of us, but I think we should postpone it to December and deal with it again at that time. Chris McGuire, do you have anything to jump in with here?
No, I agree with that. Thanks, Serv. If we could either get a breakdown or more information on that $35,000 or more quotes to show that it's in the right ballpark, then I'd be more comfortable. But definitely supportive in principle and excited to see the lot get redeveloped. And it's just a matter of making sure we're getting value for money.
Okay, Dorothy, would you like to add anything, or are you in support of moving it to December?
Yes, that's fine with me. And I also am in support of it in principle, but we need more information. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mary, could you take that back to them and maybe they can give us what we need here?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Put that one aside. Okay, project update, Mary. Oh, maybe before we go there, Chris McGuire, you were in late, but we did 45 Beckwith Street North first, and we approved the figure that was asked for. I think it was $2,100. $2,150. So the committee looked at it, approved it. We moved on from there. So Mary has added a project update to our agenda, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay,
Mary?
great.
All right, so last week during our special meeting of the CIP, we had the quorum that was present discussed application CIP 2105 pertaining to the development of 44 Chambers Street. Ultimately, the committee decided to grant funding of $11,500 under program 3 and recommended in principle approval to council on condition for program 4 funding. So just basically in preparation for the COW report that's being prepared for Monday evening, the senior planner had brought to my attention something that might have been of the committee's interest that I just want to bring to your attention because I wasn't aware of it. So the proponents for the application have actually applied for funding under CMHC's Rapid Housing Initiative for affordable housing, which supports the creation of new permanent affordable housing and helps cover the construction of new rental housing units, including the acquisition of land and the conversion/rehabilitation of existing buildings to affordable housing. So the proponents applied as part of the first round of funding earlier in 2021, which I was aware about, but I was also aware that they were unsuccessful in that first round. What's new information is that they have applied for a second time during the second round of funding, and they're not anticipating a decision until later this year. What they did advise us today is that the municipal support for project under TIG funding would actually enhance their application for RHI funding.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, that take Chris, you look like you've got something to add.
I have not declared a conflict of interest on this project because we basically sold it back to CareBridge, which is a not-for-profit organization from Almont, the nicest people in the world that are going to build this a wholly 100% affordable housing. So if they get the $7-8 million, maybe they won't need the 10,000, but you know what, it's probably a $10 million project. So I think it's our contribution for sure as taxpayers in this town to move affordable housing forward. Absolutely. I don't believe that the RHI will cover the building permit, that sort of thing. So again, I think it's a legitimate cause.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Chris McGuire, you've got your hand up.
Thanks, Serv. Yeah, I agree too. Thanks. It was great to watch the meeting from last week. I was deer hunting. But if they get the funding, it's great, but if they don't, it's good to have this and it's good to have it on the application. My only question was, sorry, now I'm drawing a blank. When it comes to, sorry, I can't think of what I had the question that's gone.
That's all right. It happens to me quite a bit.
Oh, sorry, with the building permit stuff, I remember in the past, there was questions of whether or not we could take that money out of the building permit fund, because we have this big reserve that has all the kinds of money in it that we can only spend it on certain things on. And I was wondering if we had any, and I know Janet's not here tonight, but does anybody remember if we got clarification on that? Yeah.
Mary?
Sorry, Chris. Yeah, I do recall you mentioning it a while ago. Janet had looked into it with Carrie. What I understand is that there's a list of what's eligible for building costs to cover, and this is not one of those items.
Okay.
So it still falls under us.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've got $2 million in that building permit coffer and we can't use it. Great.
okay. Chris McGuire, I see your hand is still up, or have you got something else to add there?
Sorry, I'm just not on the ball today.
That's okay. I told you, he's still in his pajamas. Okay.
I wish.
Let's go with roundtable. Julia? Anything to add today? Nope.
Nope,
Thank
not
you.
today.
Okay, thank you. Dorothy?
No, nothing.
Okay, thank you. Chris Samir?
I actually have nothing to say, Herb, if you can believe it.
We'll take that as no, you don't have anything. Okay, thank you. Chris McGuire?
Thanks. My only comment was on the Beckwith one about the retractable awning. I wasn't sure how that worked or what the advantage of that was. So I don't know. Did that come up, or if not, sorry for being late. And
Well, I think in the document, it says that the existing awning is quite torn, and a new replacement will look much better there.
oh yeah, no, I'm excited. It's well needed, and I think it's a great application. I wondered if it was a permanent feature of the street. If it's got to get rolled in and rolled out every night, does that increase the wear and tear on it? And Barry?
Sorry, the quotes actually indicate that it'll be a crank. So similar to what they have there now, where I believe they take something out and they kind of put it in the socket and they crank it out and then they crank it back in at night.
Okay, I guess my preference is for a permanent one that's there kind of thing, but anyway, those are my comments.
Hey, Julia?
I think it's more for winter application as well, to crank it more in the winter. So when snow is falling, it's not impacting the awning all the time. So they, especially in the winter, they can pull it back and put it forward. But in the summertime, it's likely to stay out on a permanent basis.
Okay, thanks, Julia.
Structurally, it might be tough to do for snow.
Exactly. Mary, any comments? Anything to add?
No, the only thing I had was letting you all know that 7 Maple Avenue was just finishing up their application to apply for program 4, but we'll discuss that in December.
Okay. That accessible housing unit, when is it scheduled to open, or do we have an approximate date, Mary?
The what, sorry? The accessible housing?
The affordable housing component on Chambers Street? When
So
is
I'm not
it-
sure when when it's planned to go up. I know
Okay.
that they had originally anticipated construction to start this fall and they haven't started yet. So I expect sometime in the spring, but this is scheduled to be presented to council on Monday.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Carabridge is just waiting to find out who's paying for it, that's all. If the federal government's paying, it'll go really fast. If the drawings are already, we're going to look after construction of the building for them as basically as community service. And so they're ready to go. It's just if they've got the money, it will go fast. If not, it'll go ahead. We're going ahead with the building permit application in the next month or so.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I don't have anything to add. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, December the 8th at 4 o'clock, and we've got some items on the agenda already. So looking forward to that date. I want to thank everyone for being here today, and that went very well. It's 4:34, one of our quicker meetings. Not as quick as last week, but pretty quick today too. Okay, so I want to thank everybody, and everyone have a great evening, especially you, Chris. I can see you're going to have a good evening.
Terrible, terrible.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.